evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
89.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio, your old friend Virgil back once again for another exciting episode of the podcast. As you guys know it, the only podcast dedicated to the revival of our beloved drive-in culture. Joined as always with my co-host and general manager extraordinaire, Mark. Say hello, Mark.
Hello.
And really excited because not only do we have two amazing guests, two amazing friends and family members of the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, but we're gonna unveil some shit on you guys, some amazing news that has been in the works in the off season and is about to come to fruition. So welcome to the show, Kyle Park, Kevin Day of the Neshaminy Creek Brewery. Welcome, fellas.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
So excited to have you guys. If you can't tell, I'm really excited about what we've been working on.
Yeah, me too.
Why don't we start there? I mean, well, let's start a little bit before that. So Kyle and co have been supporters and lovers of the Mahoning Drive-In Theater for quite some time. When did you guys start coming to the drive-in?
I looked it up, and I knew my first show was the Indiana Jones trilogy, so it looks like that was 2018. Wow. After hearing about you guys for a couple years before that, but that was my first trip up.
That was the outing.
Yes, I could not resist the call.
And was it a natural kind of flow where you were like, okay, I discovered something, I got to bring the whole entire crew up?
Oh,
because
yeah.
I saw it kind of grow.
Yeah, for sure. I went with my good buddy Doug, who's like if I'm not bringing my son, I'm bringing Doug up to the drive-in.
You're bringing your Doug.
Yes. So we went, and then for like that whole summer, I didn't shut up about the drive-in. So even if people at the brewery didn't want to hear about it, they were hearing about it. But Kevin, I think you had known about it at the time too, right?
Yeah, it had been on my radar for a while. I guess one of the things that stands out, I didn't make it up for the event, but I remember being on the beach and you guys were playing, I want to say The Gate, and I can't remember the second film. But
The Gate and Gate 2 really early on. That was
that sounds right.
2015, and I think we did bring it back once or twice after that, but yeah, that'll be something that flies on the radar. Like, what?
Yeah. So I just remember seeing a lot of like very genre specific movies and be like, oh, I have to get up to this place. Like, I have to do it. It's a bit of a trek for me. The first time I made it was Godzilla Palooza.
Oh,
I was just
what
pretty
an intro.
stoked. Yeah. it was an interesting first time for me for sure.
Yeah, it's that was a banger. You guys started supporting the theater like crazy with your patronage, but you also started making friendly, and we started knowing you guys kind of by name, by face, and as kind of the brewery boys. And you are so gracious to bring us gifts on the regular to the lot, which we always appreciate greatly. This natural connection kind of happened on the lot. Am I right? This whole initial spark of this idea?
Yeah, I think even maybe my first time, before we had plenty of time leading up to Raiders of the Lost Ark starting, because that was in the middle of the summer. So it was a late start time. So I think some conversation, even that, just like, we could do something here. Like we were, way too similar as far as interests and just vibes between the brewery and the drive-in. I always kind of said, like, if the brewery ran a drive-in, it would pretty much be what you guys are doing. Like, so it was a natural fit. And yeah, just started kind of brainstorming, kept in touch with you. And then anytime I would come up and visit, like I said, bringing you guys some beers and just planting the seeds, and knew that at some point we could collaborate.
Totally. And for a guy who grew up in the suburbs of Philly, and has that connection in the area, you guys have just been on the tongue and the radar down there for a good amount of time. And when you started showing up, it was really cool for me because, you know, I'm kind of closer to where you guys are than the actual theater where I grew up and live now. So it felt kind of like a nice kinship. And naturally, like you said, there was a crossover with the love of movies and fandom and certain choices. So we talked about on the lot the idea of, can we collaborate on a potential brew? And it kind of snowballed from there. What was the initial kind of spark? Did you bring the idea to the team, or was it something you guys were just like had in the pocket?
I think me and Kevin share an office at the brewery, which has a big Godzilla tapestry and a couple Mahoning posters up on the wall. So
for better or worse, we share the office.
Which we used to call the chum bucket, but nowadays we're starting to call it the idea lab, you know, because some good ideas are coming out of there, and this is one of them. So no, me and him, we're usually the ones talking about it, and eventually, I don't know if everyone just wanted me to stop talking about it and said, okay, Kyle, we'll do the Mahoning beer or what, but it just felt like it was a pretty easy connection. So we kind of pitched it as, you know, we could go up on the lot, set up a table, do a little vending up there, release it at the brewery as well. But yeah, just sort of wanted to make a beer that felt like it belonged at the Mahoning, specifically like a throwback kind of retro beer that, you know, you guys get a wide audience. So anybody from the youngsters as old as 21, of course, all the way up to some of the older crowd could appreciate. So that's where we landed on the style, at least.
Right. That was really where the kind of initial conversations got to, you know, Mark and the team was like, hey, is this something that we would be into? I think it's the perfect connection, not just, you know, with our fan bases and how like-minded we are, but it really does expand our brand. And that's something I really love about how you guys have done things is, you know, Neshaminy Creek Brewery is a brand that people know because you guys have done an amazing job in supporting the arts and concert scene and the music scene and then the film scene. And it felt like it was a no-brainer for us to take that step and say, yes, it will be Mahoning branded beer, but this is more about the overarching love of the drive-in and the feel that you have on a drive-in night. And I think you guys really did an amazing job with landing on what we decided was the traditional lager.
Yeah. So one of our kind of self-proclaimed nicknames is Lager City. So we definitely pride ourselves on our lagers. You know, Pennsylvania brewery, there's a lot of lager history that goes along with that locally. So between that and just, like I said, the retro vibe, we thought a nice American retro lager was the perfect fit. And it was that idea to kind of, like you said, we've done a lot of work with bands and music and that kind of thing. But just as much as we love music, there's just as many guys at the brewery that love movies too. So this was sort of the next branching out.
And we were shooting around some potential names that we could go with. And I'm trying to remember, what were some of the early ones? We're not going to reveal what we landed on, but what were some of the early ones we were thinking?
The one I liked was Fogged Windows, but that's just me.
Foggy Windows. That was Mark's.
I don't think I saw that one. I don't hate that, actually.
Foggy Windows.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
Yeah. I don't think that made the short list that you sent to us, at least, but I like it now.
Keep it for the next one.
Yeah, right? Part 2.
Yeah, I had a Google Doc going. I was just jotting down like any kind of vocabulary that might work. So I was trying to make something with like celluloid or something with the projector, or like simplex. I was looking through all the vocab, but then you guys did a little brainstorming on your end and sent over some good ones.
I remember Drive-In Nights was one that lingered toward the top because that was one that we were like, hey, we want the name to evoke a feeling as well as obviously the can and the artwork to really evoke that same feeling. So what we pitched, a short list, like you said, and on that list was something we say regularly on the radio show here at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater and have been promoting, using as a nice, easy alliteration to promote when our shows start. So Showtime at Sundown is what we landed on, and such a cool name for, again, a drive-in branded kind of drive-in nights feeling.
Yeah, I mean, that as soon as I saw that email, I was like, yeah, I think that's it. That one hits pretty good.
And let's talk about where you guys kind of came up and went from there as far as the process of coming up with what this beer is going to taste like, and again, kind of push that feeling that any age, like we talked about, you could come with your father and enjoy this. You could sit out on a deck with your pops and grandfather and enjoy this. So we didn't want it to go kind of the IPA new age niche route.
No, but maybe if we do Foggy Windows, I could see that being a nice like hazy IPA or something. But we'll back burner that.
That's golden.
Yeah, that's pretty good. But yeah, so like the retro drive-in. So what are all those old school beers that you think of? You got your Schlitz, your High Life, your PBR. So those are all classic, American lagers, light lagers. Showtime at Sundown's a real easy drinking, like 4%, which is your standard kind of domestic beer ABV.
Throughout this process, you guys have been so amazingly generous. We went down and had a nice brewery tour early on and just kind of sat, me and Fancy, and chatted with you guys about the idea, what we were kind of hoping for this to be, where it would be available, how we could make it available on the lot for people to take home. And it's something that, again, we couldn't pass up the opportunity to partner with somebody who is kind of the pros in this game. So why don't we spin a little bit and talk about, when did Neshaminy Creek Brewery start? You guys are fairly young in the game, right?
Well, this year we're celebrating our 10th anniversary. So in the grand scheme of things, a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, you guys would have started, we were 2014.
Yeah.
So you guys were what?
2012. So we started in June of 2012. So way back when we had much smaller staff. I wasn't one of the original employees, but I was friends with the guys that started the brewery. And Kevin, I think, had known at least one of our founders before then, right?
For sure, yeah. I knew Jeremy, who was, one of the original founders of the brewery. I don't know, since like 8th or 9th grade or something like that. And Rob, probably at some point in college, I met Rob. So yeah, known him for a long time. But I want to say the brewery was about 2 years old before I got into the fold.
Same for me.
Kyle, is that the same?
Yeah, my first day was the second anniversary party in 2014. So
that's crazy. So you guys really started doing your thing down there when we partnered up with Jeff up here.
Yep.
What a weird crossover that this whole thing is. Now, when you guys came in, were you guys still in that growing stage? Because again, being in the burbs down there, you guys seem to have a presence almost instantly. And again, I was working in the wine industry and kind of in the world there. But what was that process like when you guys came in? Or progression like, I should say, when you guys came in?
It was a pretty small operation when it first got started, but luckily they got a building that had plenty of room for growth. So by the time I started, we had just started to sell cans, like I think literally the day I started at the brewery.
Wow.
So before that, it was just draft and 22-ounce bottles, which at the time wasn't as weird, but nowadays in the beer world, 22-ounce bottles aren't really a thing anymore. But for a while, for craft breweries, that was really the package you were seeing a lot of.
Damn.
And we got into the can thing pretty much right when it was really taking off. People had stopped doing 6-pack bottles for the most part. I mean, obviously the bigger guys are always going to do it, but 2014 around then is when you really started to see the smaller breweries move into cans. And then once we did that really, things escalated pretty quickly for a couple of years there.
I think you got to talk about the whole craft brewery scene in general.
That's what I was going to say, is you guys were really kind of there as that big kind of spark happened in that area.
For sure. Yeah.
For sure. When we started, the laws were different. And by design, we had to be someone that distributed beer. So it was a completely different scene at that point. And we were one of the originals from the newer batch of breweries, popping up. And growth in the craft beer scene seemed to be endless for a few years. It was just like, we just kept like growing and growing. And so it was weird. Every year felt monumentally different, at least for me. That was my perception. Kyle was on the sales force, so I think he could speak to that, a little better. But it certainly seemed like the sky was the limit as far as like what we could do.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. We got in kind of right at like the last bit of time before it was like totally saturated, which is great to see all these breweries. But from like a sales point of view, it definitely changed once that, you were competing with a lot more people. It was great for me because I could go visit these other breweries that were nearby now. But yeah, there was a little bit of time where I was a sales rep, but we were out of stock basically before the beer was even canned. So I didn't have much to sell. It was going that fast in and out of the brewery, which was great. But that's what happens when you start canning. It was a much easier way for people to get our beer, and people wanted it. And then I think in 2015 is when the laws changed. We were able to open a tap room at the brewery. So that's when you could actually come hang out, grab some pints, and watch them make the beer right in the next room.
Which also kind of like changed the game as far as like people opening craft breweries. I feel like it almost became a bit more tap room centric versus trying to get volume and wholesale.
Right.
So yeah, we kind of came in at a very strange time.
Yeah, I remember when those laws changed, because that's when they started allowing, and you'd see a lot of it in the wine industry, these micro wineries where they'd have basement wineries, as we'd call them, where they'd be producing, as much as they can, getting juices shipped in, not having to worry about the fact that they didn't have a vineyard and they weren't actually growing anything or producing anything, and that's kind of the same thing that happened in the market down there with beer, where it was like everybody started pushing a brand. Everybody started having a different style can. And it was like every time you went in, it was something new. But I can say it, being in the area, your guys' presence is incredible. Like everywhere that you go, there it is, that can, that brand, that name looking at you in the face. And again, with connecting to the music stuff, did you guys have a lot to do with connecting at that point with, I guess, the advertising end of it, getting your name out there?
Yeah. So with like the beer end, it was like we had great wholesaler partners. So like we were able to get a beer out on the shelves, and that can speak for itself. And then when the laws changed, we were able to do stuff at the brewery. That is really when we started to make that shift towards a lot of the events and music and stuff that happened at the brewery. Kevin and Jeremy and Rob, they go back with bands themselves, so he can probably speak a little bit more to that.
The music connection, really stemmed from a lot of the staff early on kind of knowing each other through music. Jeremy and Rob knew each other from touring. I knew Jeremy and Rob through bands and touring, and so there was just like this thread throughout all of it, since the beginning, where music was a huge part of it. So I think there was an approach to the business model that kind of reflected, touring as a musician, a DIY musician,
punk rock,
for sure. Kind of like, we'll figure it out along the way, and just all hands on deck and just try to make it work. And as far as the branding, the first couple years, I am not sure who was doing the branding, but at some point, our old artist JP came into the scene again, another connection through music. And I think, his artwork paired with the mentality of the brewery and the beer that was being produced, it all really clicked.
It was the perfect kind of blend.
Mhm.
And like I said, like as far as the presence, every concert I'd go to, every single thing in the area, there's your guys' banner, or you guys are there physically. They're carrying your beer. So, again, I think there's an amazing crossover there where you guys are a group of buddies who, got together, had this dream, and really pushed it to the limits as far as what you could do. And the thing that's really inspiring about you guys and your story is that growth. Like you said, you were there before the boom and still maintain as kind of the solid rock of the area. So that's a really amazing crossover with our story.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it was like I could just feel, going up to the drive, and it was like, yeah, this is the same kind of thing. It's like, we clearly love what we do down at the brewery, and you guys, you're not just putting up movies, there's an added layer of passion behind it. So yeah, hopefully that comes across to other people at the brewery. And I knew it did with you guys. So that was part of why it felt like it was a good fit.
Oh, without a doubt. And, obviously we're the home of VHS Fest, and started bringing in the vendors, which, that's a whole other scene once you get connected with the vending crowd and the convention crowd. And you guys certainly have a connection there. You were the host for a while, or are you still the host of the punk rock flea market?
We did that for a few years. We used to have a really big warehouse space, which we no longer do anymore, unfortunately. So we don't host it anymore. They've moved on, I think, to like the one stadium over in Trenton, actually, which is crazy.
Well, that's a scene that we saw grow right around that same time that we were starting.
Yeah.
The Trenton punk rock flea market became a true scene and a meetup, for people. And again, you guys being the center of that.
That was a great partnership with Joe, who runs the flea market there. We used to have a little stand at the flea market itself. We would serve beer. Then they started doing it at the brewery. So we're definitely familiar with that kind of vending crowd, like you said. And we've dabbled in a little bit of the convention stuff for a few years. We've been the official beer of Monster Mania down in Cherry Hill. So we've had a presence there for a little while with our County Line IPA, which is our like number 2 bestseller. So they've had that for a while now, which has been great. We also did the official beer for the big Warped Tour 25th anniversary show down in Atlantic City.
Yes, that I remember.
So yeah, we had a tent down there for that weekend, and that was a pretty big one. That was a nice culmination of things.
That was a bit surreal for sure. I mean,
as musicians, to be like, what the hell's going on? We're here at the center of Warped Tour.
Yeah, it was like, it's just such a massive event. And I believe that was like the farewell to the Warped Tour or whatever. And it was in Atlantic City. And I don't know how it came up, but someone just kind of was like, maybe we should ask if they're looking for something like this. And something that seemed so out of reach just became like a reality.
Yeah, I had heard through the grapevine, because at the time I was still doing sales in Jersey, and I knew that they were planning something on the beach before they announced it. So yeah, we just started poking around, and eventually got to the right person, and it was like, yeah, okay. They said okay.
Amazing.
And then figure out how we're actually
minor details.
Yeah.
And now that you guys have kind of climbed the ladder, Kyle, you're pushing the marketing end of things, and Kev, you're like the logistics manager, which I take it that's like an umbrella job where you pretty much run everything.
Yeah, the heart of it is really bringing in all the supplies that we need to kind of keep going, and working with our wholesalers so they're picking up finished goods and all that kind of stuff. But I think by default, for being an employee, as long as I have been at the brewery, I kind of fall into different camps, and Kyle and I share an office.
So naturally there's spitballing going on there.
Yeah, we're always saying dumb stuff, and sometimes it comes to fruition. But no, it's fun because like we do have a lot of ideas, and I think it's really cool that we're in a position now that we can share those ideas, and sometimes they are acted on, and something like a collab with you guys comes out of it. I think that's awesome. So.
And again, this isn't something that's coming out of the blue for your guys' brand. Why don't we talk about some of the more recent releases that have been connected to films? And again, the reason we love you guys and your branding. You guys have done an amazing job putting together videos that pay homage to those films that have inspired your beers.
Yeah, I mean, the masterpiece so far, I think we all can agree was Damn Ye, which was our beer that we brewed in honor of the lighthouse.
Genius.
That definitely started with Kevin at some point.
Yeah, it was. I just remember seeing it in theaters and walking away and just being like, God, everyone needs to see how wild this movie is. And I kind of just talked it up, and eventually people would watch it. And our lead brewer head brewer Jay, watched it, and he got a kick out of it as well. And Damn Ye was one of those lines that we just loved. And all of a sudden, it's like, hey, let's do a lighthouse themed beer. Yeah.
I love the creative magic that brews where you're like, this is something I like, and it starts becoming a thing in the office, and then it's like, let's take it to the next level. It's like how some of our events are born. They start off of a joke.
That's definitely how some of these beers happen. Yeah. That one in particular too was like, we should make like a spoof trailer, and that escalated as well. Luckily,
that's a masterpiece. Why don't you explain what happens in this trailer?
So we are good buddies with the crew at 360 Digital Studios, which is right next door to the brewery, and they're like they're a production house. Rob and Brian, and they do all sorts of great work, like super professional. They always get the high-end cameras. They're on top of the latest technology, all that stuff. But they like to come over to the brewery to have some beers at the end of their day. So we've got a relationship with them.
You're like, let's have some fun.
Well, just for reference, it's like they'll be just getting back from a trip from literally filming an interview with Bill Clinton. And then it's like, hey, do you want to shoot us doing this spoof of the lighthouse? And they're like,
do you want to
awesome.
come over and shoot us beating a stuffed seagull against a rock?
Yeah. So I think we all went home, did our homework, watched the movie a couple more times, got our lines that we wanted to quote, and we put together a little video. If you scroll back through our Facebook page, you can find, those guys obviously knocked it out of the park, and they make it look like legit. It actually looked like a really well shot little film,
like the movie. Yeah.
So they've been great to have right next door. Any nice photos that you see of our beers comes from them. So they're great to play around with. We've got a couple more things coming up this year that I think we'll have some movie tie-ins. There's definitely something coming up tied to our anniversary party that has an homage to a certain dinosaur franchise. And then a little bit later, closer to spooky season, you might be seeing some zombies on something. So,
I love it.
It hasn't been announced yet, so.
I think you're skipping over Summer Dollars.
Oh, of course, I am.
I was gonna say I saw some artwork, a beautiful artwork that was reflective of a movie that we've played many a time at the Mahoning.
I've seen it at the Mahoning, luckily. So Summer Dollars is another one of our kind of movie references. That is our Blood Orange Goza, which is a sour kind of beer, great for summer, that we brew with blood orange and sea salt. So Jaws is an often quoted movie at the brewery. It's my favorite movie. I know it's up there for Kevin. So we're always quoting the mayor for the most part, and that's where that beer name came from. We first released it last year, and we had the mayor on there, we had Brody sitting on the beach, we had the orca off in the distance, but we went to a rebrand, so we had to get a new label, which oh boohoo, we got to get a new Jaws label. That was a lot of fun to pass along to our designers and give them some references we wanted to see. So that'll be out in early May. And I'm sure I'll be bringing some up to the lot to share. And
Damn Ye's coming back, right? Is that happening in November?
I think it might be a little bit earlier this year, actually. So that'll be a smaller release. But Damn Ye's on the schedule again because
we'll probably do another trailer Yeah.
I mean, that leads to another question. How quickly does your runs like work out? Do you guys have staples and then you have other ones that you pepper in for limited runs?
Yeah, so we are actually next week. We're meeting at the brewery to kind of have our first meeting about next year's schedule. So that is when we'll kind of sit down and look at what we released, or at least have scheduled for 2022, and be like, all right, this one's might retire this one. We'll bring this one back. We have to bring this one back. And it usually shakes out to be like 50-50 as far as our seasonals coming back the following year.
It's almost like our annuals. It's like putting together our calendar.
Yeah, same kind of thing. And then you gotta like kill your darlings sometimes, and you're like, like I love that beer, but it maybe didn't do as well. And I'm sure it's the same for you guys with certain screenings where it's like,
Oh yeah. It's like, oh man, if only that East meets West weekend went gloriously. We could have had so much kung fu and westerns over the last 3 years.
Yeah, luckily Damn Ye was well received. Summer Dollars turned out great, so those will be coming back. Yeah, so it kind of just works like that. We go through a few rounds of that, figuring out the schedule, and then we'll do smaller stuff in the tap room, a little more off the cuff. But we really try to plan out ahead because we do so much in distribution with the wholesaler, so you kind of have to know what's coming pretty far in advance.
Totally. I mean, it seems like that's a pretty long advance.
And the wholesalers, they kind of help dictate some of it as well because they pre-order certain releases. So like they kind of know what they're getting ahead of time. We know exactly what to brew. So, if we brew something like Summer Dollars and it's a hit and they go through it all, we're kind of like, all right, well, that's it. So
there it goes.
Wait for the next one.
And is that what you guys will do? Is, if something's a big hit and flies off the shelves, you're like, well, I guess we're going to have to keep that one around and keep it rocking for a while?
For sure. We just did that with a brand new beer we just released a few weeks ago called Pushing Daisies. That was a new Kolsch that we did. So it's like a great spring beer, but it was the first time we did it. We did a relatively small amount and we blew it out, I think, in the first 2 weeks at the brewery. It was like, okay, well, got to make more of that next year.
And that had a loose movie reference too. That had a Midsummer reference.
Yeah. It started with Midsummer and then kind of evolved from there. It sort of happens with a lot of the beers nowadays.
The movies, the music, it's all just kind of intertwined into your brains. Now you guys do and have done screenings down at the brewery as well, amongst all those other cool events.
Yeah, we've been doing a monthly movie night at the tap room for a while now. We pumped the brakes with that, obviously, with COVID. We weren't doing as many of those bigger events, but we do it. It's a free movie night. So I think it's usually the first Friday after a full week of the month. We'll do that. But yeah, we have a projector up there in the tap room. So we do that. I know we're starting to let our tap room staff, the bartenders and stuff, pick their favorite movies. So recently, one guy picked True Romance, which is awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, so we get a wide variety of films, and we're working on something for later in the summer to have every Sunday show. I mean, we can say it here, right, Kevin?
Yeah, we can say it.
Yeah, every Sunday we want to show all the Jaws movies and have it be like with a Summer Dollars special.
Amazing. Yeah. Come on.
We did it last year with the first one, even though me and Kevin were immediately like, well, we can do all four, right? And
let's lean into this puppy.
Baby steps, but it went over really well. So yeah, now we're like, all right, let's do it every weekend. So just something different, to come out to the brewery. So we'll have drink specials, a beer cocktail that we use the beer in, maybe some props, photo props. Kind of taking a little bit of a page out of your book with that stuff.
That rules.
Because I just happen to have a large banner printout of the billboard from Amity Island, so it comes in handy.
Well, that's amazing. And like I said, the idea that you guys kind of started right around the same time that we did, or in that same kind of like-minded scene, the Philly scene is certainly what feeds the Mahoning up here. And the idea again behind this was let's team up, let's make this thing happen. And it should be said, we don't promote the use of alcohol on the lot. We always say that we don't inspect your cars. We're not one of those folks, but we wanted to make sure that you guys could get out onto the lot and make this limited run available to probably the most key market, the Mahoning fans. So on May 21st, it's a Saturday, we're doing Mad Max again, the Mad Max 2. What do we call this event, Mark?
It's a Mad Max.
Yes, it's a Mad Max Part 2. And on that Saturday, we'll be playing Beyond Thunderdome and Fury Road. And the boys will be out. You can have the opportunity to come out and grab yourselves some cans. I take it this is going to be a very limited run, and anybody who wants to get their hands on it should certainly try to do so early.
For sure. Yeah, there's not going to be much of it. So we'll have it at the Mahoning on the 21st, and then we'll also be releasing it at the brewery that weekend. And, that's pretty much the only two places you're going to be able to get it. So, yeah, if you can't make it all the way up to the drive-in, we'll have a few cases at the brewery for you. But
I have to say, the artwork on this is gorgeous. Like, these are going to be collectible cans, whether you open them or not, I think, for Mahoning fans and for drive-in fans. So prepare for the stampede.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about where that kind of came from, that process?
So I mentioned that it's the brewery's 10th anniversary this year. So with that in mind, earlier, like last year, we decided, all right, 10th anniversary is coming up. We've been around for a while. We've had the same kind of vibe for our cans for a long time. So it was time to kind of give that a fresh look. So we did a full-blown rebrand with a great design company called Fried Design Co. out of Springfield, Missouri. So top to bottom, new logo, all new can art to kind of be a little bit more reflective of how the brewery has changed over those 10 years. So you'll see a little bit more of, obviously some of the movie influences that we've been talking about, and just a little bit more authentic to who we are today since everything has changed so much. So it's been great working with them because anytime we have an idea, we'll send them some inspiration, some articles, pictures, what have you. Me and Kevin will hop on a Zoom call with them and kind of talk them through how we see, a label coming together. And then they'll offer their opinion and their take. So we sat on a pretty long Zoom call to talk about this one because I knew they needed a lot of context. So I had to kind of explain your whole story to them, why we're doing it with you guys, kind of the vibe we wanted people to get from the label and the beer. So yeah, we have like a productivity platform that we share with them. So I just loaded that up with like everything I could find so they could kind of get the feel for what the drive-in is like. But we knew we wanted to tie it into that kind of nostalgic feeling. So with the name Showtime at Sundown, we've got this like beautiful kind of sunset colors with the orange and the purples and the mountains on each side of the screen coming around. And then just, you get the cars out there and a few people enjoying the movie on top of their cars. And then I snuck in a little Easter egg in front of the moon there to tie it into your mural that's on the concession stand there with our buddy E.T.
Love it.
Which selfishly, I was like, oh, they have it on the concession stand. But that was also the first movie I took my kids to at the drive-in up there. So I wanted to get that in there. And then, we sent that to you guys. And you guys had some feedback and you suggested getting the marquee on there. I was like, yeah, we should probably have that on there too. So
yeah, and that's the thing. It screams Mahoning, but it also just screams drive-in, and that was what we wanted. This is something that anybody can pick up and say, oh my goodness, isn't this beautiful? And it really is. It's a piece of art, something that I'm sure anybody who enjoys is going to be holding on to those cans, because if there's one thing we know, people love the limited edition runs.
Yeah.
It was, I want to say that was like close to like a 2-hour phone call for that artwork, right, Kyle?
Yeah,
like
probably.
It was like a long time. We talked about a bunch of different stuff, and I know at one point there was an idea of maybe having like an alien type invasion, like of aliens coming from behind the screen and stuff.
Oh,
and,
that's awesome. Yeah.
So there was like a whole bunch of stuff talked about, but for the font, one thing that we really looked at was like the old Universal horror movies and their font work, which I think really stands out. And I don't know, I like how it came together. I like how it's a bit more traditional versus, full scale alien attack, but I think it's easier to relate to like this scenery,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super proud of how it looks.
It's absolutely beautiful. And again, you guys being so gracious. We went down actually yesterday from when we were recording this, myself, Jeff, Fancy. We had Kelly and Andy there as well. And you guys gave us a tour and we started the brew process together.
Yeah, it's in the tanks now. So it's happening. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm glad you guys could get a little crew together to actually see it happen. Because, it's not much of a collab if you can't get your hands a little dirty at the brewery. So,
well, everybody was so into it. And pardon me for not remembering. What's your brew master's name?
Jay. You can call him Jaybird now, though.
Jaybird. Yeah, Jaybird was an amazing host. Literally gave us the top to bottom tour. We were tasting the hops. Were they hops? Is that what they are?
You guys were munching on some malt. Yeah.
We were munching on some malt. It was like it was truly a party. And of course, you guys had the brews flowing for us. We had a really amazing time, and to see behind the scenes where the magic happens, and again on an inspiring level, where you can take something when you dream big, was really cool and really great that we got to bring the crew in to see it as well, because it's something that's just mind-blowing to us. When we first started this thing, the idea to be able to work with a company that I love and, we take on pretty regularly is pretty amazing. So thank you guys so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, selfishly, I was just something I've wanted to do for a while, but I also am like, we have our audience, you have your audience. There's definitely a crossover, but I hope that the collab kind of brings some new eyes to the drive-in too. Not that I want the lot any more crowded for when I'm there, but yeah. But yeah, hopefully, just drawing some more attention, because we are, definitely you get some of your audience from down our way, but if there's anyone that isn't aware, hopefully they will be in a little bit.
Also, I don't think you realize how stoked Jaybird is on Fury Road playing the night of the release. Like
that's truly, the movie that's playing when you guys get to come out.
Like him and I have talked about that movie since it's been released. Like literally, like so many inside jokes about that movie and how much we love it. So I would not be surprised if he shows up with a vehicle that shoots fire. And
all out, like post-apocalyptic.
He's not ready. He's never been, and like I've talked to him about it, but I don't think he quite understands what he's getting in for, and it's gonna blow his mind, I think. So,
it's gonna be great. It is going to be amazing. Why don't we shift a little bit? You guys obviously are on the Drive-In podcast. What's your history with drive-ins? Were you blessed enough to have them in your youth, or did you come to it later?
I definitely went to a couple drive-ins when I was younger. So I do have those memories. And there were a couple, by the time I was born, they were closed, but drive-ins right near my house where I grew up. So I grew up in Frailous Hills, and there was one like literally 2 minutes down the road from me. It was the US 1 North drive-in. And then there was a Morrisville one too. So I remember seeing like the screens there, but they had already closed down. So I think we used to drive out to the Bucks County drive-in.
My man.
Yeah. When I was a kid, that was still running. And we were talking to Mark before we started recording. And, it's one of those things, I have a lot of memories of going to the drive-in, not so many specific memories of movies. I do remember seeing The Lost World at a drive-in and Titanic as well, which is that's a long night at the drive-in, but
a single film that fills a double feature slot.
Yeah. So those are really the only two I have specific memories of. And then there had been that long gap, until Indiana Jones up at the Mahoning, besides some pop-up screenings here and there. But Kevin, I know he goes, he's over in Jersey, so he's got some other ones.
I don't remember going as a kid, but I was introduced to the Delsey Drive-In in Vineland probably my freshman year of college, and I fell in love with it like just instantly. So every summer or every season, I guess, I'm at the Delsey Drive-In probably 4 or 5 times, maybe more. It depends on what they're showing. I mean, they're definitely, they lean towards current movies. So
family fare and first runs.
Yeah, so I mean, they'll play horror films, and that's usually what I'm on the lookout for. So I kind of just wait to see what they're gonna get, and if it's something I'm interested in, I'll go to that. And then in the last couple of years, the Navy Yard in Philly did a pop-up drive-in, and I saw Candyman 2000. I guess that was 2008, 19, 18. I can't remember what year that came out. 19, I think. I saw a couple movies there. I saw a Killer Clowns pop up with the
Chiodo Brothers.
The Chiodo Brothers. Yeah, they were all at the Parks Casino, which is like 15 minutes away from the brewery. There was a screening with the Chiodo Brothers. And
how did I miss that? What the hell? That's right around the corner from me.
Yeah, there was some sort of production company that hit the scene that year, and they were doing pop-ups all around Philly, and it was all throwback stuff. Like, I remember them doing like a bunch of the Nightmare on Elm Street. They did Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Between Philly and Parks Casino, they just like really hit the scene hard, and then they kept going, and then they kind of moved towards more unique programming. Like, I remember seeing Turbo Kid in Philly. It was a pop-up screening somewhere that they threw. And then I think all of their stuff was stolen from them, and they just stopped doing it. But yeah, drive-ins and that pop-up type culture was a bit later on for me. But yeah, fell in love pretty quickly once I found it. Yeah, for sure.
And being from Jersey, shout out to Jersey, shout out to the Delsey, the last remaining drive-in in the state that is the birthplace of the drive-in.
Yeah, it's a cool little spot. I selfishly wish that they dipped into some of the back catalog as far as like genre movies and stuff like that. But like they're really
they're feeding all of Jersey. That
they are. Yeah.
We've talked about it where it's like they have the perfect market for the first run. They have people who literally will travel across the state to get to them. So, do you guys have some specific memories on the Mahoning lot that stand out, or specific events? This one will hurt a little bit, that you missed out on, that you couldn't come to.
Oh my God.
A lot that I've missed out on.
So every Tunnel Vision Tuesday last year, I would say
every single one.
Yeah, like literally every announcement, I was just like, oh God, that's so good. What, like, I can't get out there, but that's so good. So I'm just gonna commit to that every Tuesday so far. Yeah, that was tough for me. So I've only gone twice. My experience was Godzilla Palooza and Critters Con, which was, I guess, 2 years ago, last year.
2020. It was last year. It was last year.
2021. Yeah. Time doesn't exist anymore. So
who knows? Days, whatever.
Yeah, I'm cursed. I both times I've gone, I've had car issues. The first time I got stuck in the mud at Godzilla Palooza.
God, that's right. We've talked about this. We used to have a different gate crew, and you caught the bad side of that gate crew. Unfortunately, from what I hear, they weren't very kind.
No, it was an experience. It was. But I caught, what did we see? I think it was Godzilla versus Megalon was playing when we got there, which was tight. But the car was
also tight into the mud.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And it was your parents' car, if I'm remembering correctly.
Perfect.
My car had like, I don't know, there was something with the oil filter earlier in the day, and I was like, hey, I don't feel comfortable driving this thing like 2 hours, like, can I take your car? They were like, yeah, cool. It's like an all white car, so it was just covered in mud.
You drive it back, it's like a movie. Like, here you go, Dad, here's the keys.
Stopped at the there's like a do-it-yourself car wash on the, like,
that's
leaving
right in town.
to drive it. Yeah, that's where I was, spraying off the car. I'm like, I can't take it home like this. I got to spray it down. So,
magic.
It was that, and then Critters Con. So I went and I brought my wife, and I brought my sister, my brother, my older brother, and yeah, my sister's boyfriend. So yeah, it was like 5 of us in the car, like almost the whole family. My
And on the way, you guys are like laughing about like, oh, you'll never believe the last time I was there. I got so stuck.
So
in the
yeah,
mud.
they knew the story. We got there a little earlier, which was nice, and we set up and like total night and day experience. Like we all, I had a blast, and we all had a blast, and we watched Critters, and then we were like, all right, we're gonna head back home because we typically the 2 times I've gone just drive back after, and
Right.
My brother was like, oh, so like how was that in comparison? I was like, oh, it was great, that was so much fun, blah blah blah, and within 10 minutes, I think, of him saying that, I hop on the PA Turnpike and I hit a deer going like 60 miles per hour. And yeah, it was just like, I am cursed. I just can't go out here.
You're like, next time somebody else is driving, damn it.
Yeah. I had just gotten the car in January. It was like my first new car. And I was like, I've never hit deer before. What is going on out here? Luckily, we were all safe. It was minimal damage to the car, but I'm convinced that on the 21st, the screen will fall on me, Final Destination style. Like,
knock on that wood.
Yeah. Like, truly a little nervous about going out there, but I will be there on the 21st. So
it's going to be the total revival of all of this. It's like, yes, the redeem. Finally, a night that is perfect. It's not going to rain. It's going to be nothing but sunshine, cool breeze.
It hurts my heart because if there's one person that needs to have a good night at the drive-in, it's Kevin, because so many of the things you guys show, it's like Kevin would love this, but I'm not even going to mention it because I know he's a little scared to go back.
Now, for you, Kyle, you bring your son on a regular basis as well, right?
Yeah, so it was nice, timing-wise, for him to grow up a little bit and be a good age to sit through a movie. He's about to turn 5 tomorrow. So I've been bringing him for a few years. Yeah, I've gone by myself. I've gone with the whole family, with my buddy Doug. But yeah, so I've brought my son Jones quite a few times.
And Tuesdays work for you, right?
Well, with 2020, when time didn't mean anything, we were working from home. It was like, well, what's the difference? Like, I'll just go up there, camp out for the night, and you can still get home by the time you got to fire up the laptop. So so we did a bunch of Tunnel Vision Tuesdays, which was nice. Last year, actually on his birthday, you guys did Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. And
that's right. We have such an amazing shot of him too.
He was stoked because he had, like, all throughout really lockdown of COVID, we would watch all the Godzilla movies that are on HBO Max or Go, whatever the heck it's called. So he was all in on that. So that was awesome. He was meeting people on the lot. Some guy gave him a bunch of like old Godzilla, like the cartoon from the 90s, like VHS tapes of that.
Killer.
Yeah, so he was stoked on that. And more birthday stuff. I know last year on my dad's birthday, you guys showed Terminator 2, which is a favorite of his, classic, one of the best action movies, obviously. So I took him up there for that, which was cool. Yeah, some other stuff. I mean, I was really happy you guys did Tarantino A Go-Go last year too. I made it up for the Kill Bill night. Could have stayed all weekend, but not according to the rest of my family. But because I knew back before I'd gone up there, you guys did some of those more classic kind of, I'll call them like film school screenings a little bit before my time up there.
We leaned into the director retrospectives and actor retrospectives and the noir nights. And
yeah, and me and Kevin we're both film majors. I guess you're a film major forever. So like all that stuff definitely was like, oh, I got to get back up here. So I was happy to see that and excited for some of the stuff you guys have lined up this year. And then, Indiana Jones will always hold a special.
That'll hold a special place.
Yeah.
Well, Mark will tell you, we reference the Indiana Jones screening pretty regularly as the screening where literally the staff almost died from heat stroke and exhaustion because it was the longest, hottest night.
It was so hot.
Obviously, the 21st is going to be the banger of all bangers, sight to behold, Mad Max on the big screen, Mahoning and Neshaminy Creek coming together. But what's on the calendar that you're super hyped about for this season?
Well, you guys are like killing me this year so far. Every announcement, I'm just like texting people. I'm just like, oh, we gotta go. Oh, we gotta go. The one that I'm really excited about is Night of the Hunter. I'm really excited to see that up there.
Oh yeah, dream come true, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think I'm gonna make it up for opening weekend. We did that, I think, last year. It was like 20 degrees outside last year, if I remember.
That's right.
correctly.
We opened up early. We keep saying we would be opening up this weekend if we stuck with that model, and it's freaking freezing up here right now.
Yeah. It's that was a rough one. We did not stay for Willy Wonka that night. Yeah, I saw you guys just announced. I mean, you have Alien and Aliens coming up. I got the notification last night about Big Lebowski. I'm like, it's going to be endless this season. So
we're hitting them hard. We're taking a note from you guys and just being like, hey, everything that we do, we're just going to try to do it strong, and try to grow the fan base. And the Tuesdays is perfect to do that because it's the locals. You know, you don't have the people traveling 6.5 hours to come in on a Tuesday. Sometimes you do, but traditionally it's the people that can get there and get out by 10 o'clock and get home and do their thing. So we're hoping that builds some attention for the people who might not know what we do on the weekends, or just want kind of an alternative night out at the drive-in during the week.
Yeah, one movie ain't gonna kill you. You know, it's not that late.
I know, but I totally get it. It's the worst. It's like when the bands come to town and you're like, oh, I totally can't go see that band that I've been waiting for years for them to come and make this happen. It's like, it's the same situation I know when we announce something and they're like, this might be my only chance.
Yeah.
And I can't make it. But, well, why don't we talk about it? You guys said you're both film majors?
Yeah, I went to Temple, and Kevin.
I went to Rowan University.
Love it. So where do the influences fall for you guys as far as like what leads you to film? What leads you to the idea of production, filmmaking, and that whole thing? And this is coming from a guy who literally went the same exact route as you guys.
I leaned a little bit more heavily into like film history and writing and not the production side of things. But I mean, movies were always my thing. I wasn't an athletic kid or anything like that. So, I mean, I played sports, but didn't like it most of the time. So, and then, I'm a big Star Wars guy. So that right there ate up a lot of my childhood. So Star Wars, you got the natural progression into Indiana Jones. So now I'm learning about all the guys that made these movies, eating up the special features and the behind the scenes stuff. And then I kind of went, like I was sort of saying, like more the classic route. So like went real hard into Hitchcock in high school, like every normal high schooler does.
You were a hit with the ladies. They're like, come on over and watch Psycho with me.
Yeah. Oh, I got this new box set and Rope is in it. Do you wanna... No, but Rope, it's all one shot. You gotta.
Where are you going?
Yeah, come back.
I also have Jamaica Inn.
So yeah, and going to Temple, there was a lot of like-minded folks in all my classes. So I mean, that was awesome. But quickly I realized I was like, I ain't cut out for that to be like my career. So
right,
segued into something else that I fell in love with, which was making beer and just the beer scene in the Philly area especially. But obviously that's still a big part of my life, and yeah. So when I'm not
still feeding that creativity, still itching it.
Yep.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing at all. I knew I wanted to stay closer to home, and I knew that I was very interested in music. At that point I was just playing in bands and going out on the road a lot. Right. And I was like, I don't know, I want to know about the music industry or record labels and stuff like that. And there were certain courses at Rowan that kind of fell into that realm.
Oh yeah, the audio production, it tied it all together. Yeah. So I was like, I guess I'll do that. And again, I definitely like Kyle was on the, I want to say it was the B track or whatever, where it's more focused on writing and history and all sorts of stuff like that. So, I just did that.
And I guess I never thought I would end up in, the movie industry anyway, but I did get involved with music a bit more. Actually, one of the original founders of Neshaminy Creek also owns a record label, and I interned there for my internship in college.
Crazy.
And
Come on.
got hired at the label after I graduated from Rowan, which then segued into me getting hired at the brewery. So that's the connection there. But talk about movies in general. I think, my parents have influenced me quite a bit as far as like what I cater to. My mom in particular, she's like, showing us like Halloween and The Exorcist when like we were way too young to see it.
Oh, I love it. That's the mother. That's the mother right there.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it.
Right. The really good movies, like I feel like that's my mom. And then my dad is like the absolute king of like the B movie. So like he sits around like on the weekends and he'll be like, oh, gonna watch Svengoolie tonight, like, this movie's on, and it's like, yeah, that sounds cool. So like, this weekend I tuned into Tubi and I watched Devil Dog, which is like a made for TV movie from the 70s about like a dog being possessed by some demon. And
isn't that the one where the dog is hypnotizing Richard Crenna to stick his hand into a lawnmower?
Yeah, and the lawnmower.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, so I watched that this weekend, but like that's my dad's speed. So like those are like the two extremes for me. I feel
You're
like
a product
it's either like
of that.
It's
of
like
a mother
yeah.
that's like, I'm gonna be loose goose and expose the kids to some coolness. And then you got the father who's totally into the the more grindhouse B stuff. That's amazing.
It's truly a wonderful place to be in because it's like, yeah, I love Halloween. Also, I do love Devil Dog. So, deal with it.
Best of both worlds, baby.
Yeah, that is a gap in my viewing list. Kevin always is like, oh, I watched this. I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, man. But I should probably
get watch more Svengoolie. What was your dad not the Svengoolie?
No, and then having a 5-year-old, I'm like, okay, well, there's not much time to cram this in, but I'll get there.
I feel your pain.
We're getting there. Some of that horror, those kind of movies, I think we both maybe saw some of that a little too young. I think that's something we share, but not too young.
For sure.
Younger than the recommended age, perhaps. Yeah.
We're video store kids.
Yeah.
Like we are HBO kids.
Yeah.
Like, so the idea of being exposed to things at a young age and it spinning off into, other movies and other interests and other tastes, it's natural. I think it's one of those things that it's a rite of passage almost. Like, when was the first time that you almost pissed your pants in horror?
Yeah. To speak to the video store stuff, going to CritterCon with my siblings, like that's a movie where like we always rented it from the video store because of the cover. Specifically like Critters 2. Like it's like you can't
begged
not
to be picked
rent
up.
it. Yeah. And like Ghostbusters, we watched that so many times. We rented it so many times that the guy just gave it to us. Like he literally was like, "You guys can just have it now. You'd like rent it every week. Just take this off of my
You've
hands."
given us triple what we paid for it. It's yours."
Exactly. Yeah. So I definitely think that's part of it too. It's like our culture or our generation got to like walk around these stores and see the covers and be like, "Ooh, what's that?" Like. Yeah, I'll rent that. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I probably shouldn't be watching this, but this is great. So.
That's why I think nostalgia is so strong with our generation is, there's a lot of things to yearn for and the world has changed over and over and over again. And, now there's so many barriers keeping you from discovery in a weird way. And for us to take a step back in time with how we run our businesses it's kind of the move, It seems like everybody now is banking on nostalgia and that market,
Sure.
But going back to what you said about film school, my favorite class in college was, it was called The Literary Vision of Film. And we would watch a movie and we would break it down like you would after you would read a book, in an English class or something like that. And it was just the greatest scenario, sitting in a room full of cinephiles, picking apart Pulp Fiction and talking about, God and devil themes and things like that. And that's one of those things where I said, like, wherever this goes, like, if I can reenact this on a regular basis, I'll be a happy man. Like, and in a weird way, the Mahoning is like a breeding ground for that conversation and breakdown,
If the Mahoning had been around when I was in college, it would have been like game over. Like we would have been up there all the time, and then it would have been, we would have had to move in or something.
Well, we have those discussions in our office weekly, I feel like, especially like the new Star Wars shows and stuff like that. I feel like it's pretty common for Rob to come in or Jaybird to come in, and that conversation ensues. It's like, all right, what did everyone think? Let's dissect this. It gets a little heated, but
down. Yeah.
It's fun. So we still have those conversations, which is nice.
Well, talking about, being fans of the Mahoning and movies and film school kids and all that good stuff, if you had your choice to program a night or a weekend at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, I know, where do you guys go? What are you thinking? What's your go-to? It can be a themed thing. It could be just a double feature, whatever you're feeling.
Kevin, do you need a minute?
I need all the minutes.
Hardest drop on, like anybody.
Yeah.
Where it's like, naturally your brain goes to your favorite movies or whatever the case
Of course.
is. Then other people are like, well, I want it to be a hit with everybody. So
yeah.
So I know I've already mentioned this to you guys a couple times and I've slipped it into the suggestion box, but I love the idea of, I know you guys have started to do it more, the concert films. I love some of those older concert films, and I would love to pair them with a movie that director, like a narrative film that director also did. So like,
that's so good.
Stop Making Sense and Silence of the Lambs. I don't know if anyone else would care, but that would be a great night out for me.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So like, Jonathan Demme night, but slip in the Stop Making Sense or something like that.
Oh, that's cool.
And I mean, it's an easy one because there's such a long filmography, but you could do a whole Hitchcock weekend very easily.
Yes. We've never touched it. The only time we've ever gotten close to the Hitchcock was Psycho screening last year. Right?
Yeah.
That's the only one we've done since we've been in power, as it were.
No, you know what? That's not true. We played, what was his very last film?
Oh, Family Plot.
Oh,
Family Plot.
Really?
That was that way.
The Television
back.
Tuesday, wasn't it?
I think that was
Universal weekend.
Early, like when Harry was doing those studio weekends, AIP weekend and the things like that. But yeah, that's due for a weekend. Without a doubt.
You could do each night with one of his actors or a theme because there's so much crossover.
Meat on that bone.
Yeah. I hope there's some others out there that would show up.
Hitchcock until you drop. I'm sorry.
There you go.
I was thinking Hitchcock until you drop. We just wrote it. It's done. Trademarked. Kyle, Kev, Mark.
Beautiful.
It's in the book. Yeah. I've been on a made for TV movies kick lately. So
now you're talking.
I would love to see something like that, like Devil Dog and Moon of the Wolf or something like that. Like they're so cheesy, but they're so good. Another theme I like personally is like shore town horror. So like Dead and Buried and like The Fog or something like that, or The Slayer, The Prowler. The Prowler was filmed in Cape May. So I don't think it leans heavily on the sea shore background or whatever, but like knowing that it's filmed there is pretty.
That's
pretty
a nice
neat,
overarching theme too. I like that.
Yeah, I do that a lot during the summer. I do the all right, all these like filmed at the shore, or that's the setting. It's
you do neat. What, the on location stuff?
No, just like, well, I'll watch them at home. But actually, I did go to the Prowler just had its 40th anniversary at the.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to that. So that was in November, and it was in the Inn of Cape May. And my wife and I went and we went to the screening and we stayed overnight in the inn, and we
that's
made a
killer.
weekend out of it. It was wonderful.
Who did I see that went? Maybe one of the Demmer, Steve Demmer. One of the Demmer brothers, I think, was also at that event. But yeah, that looks super cool.
Yeah, it was. I want to say it's NC Meyer's house or something like that. Through it, like they do like the on location stuff, and
right.
It was cool. It wasn't very crowded. I don't know. I don't think they had more than 50 seats in this room, and they did the screening, and they did like a cake, the same cake that's like in the movie, and it was just really cool. I did not know that it was filmed there until like quite a few years ago, and I was like, this is so weird, because I just would never think that a horror movie would be filmed in Cape May.
Let alone one that's a banger. Yeah,
right. So yeah, that, I don't know. Yeah, movies that happen at the beach. Dead and Buried, another good one that I really like. It's a cool movie. I think it's a sleeper. You know, people don't realize that it's like a lot of fun. I have fun with it. So,
well, you guys are absolutely the best. I can't thank you enough for not only making the time and the partnership and all that good stuff, but all the fun that we have to come. So why don't you guys let the audience know where they can find Neshaminy Creek Brew, where they can get the info. Tell them where you guys are located, because for me in my area, you guys are a hop, skip, and a jump, and a little brew and some food truck action. You got my money.
Yeah, we make it easy, you know. We are Neshaminy Creek Brewing Company. The main brewery and tap room is in Croydon, Pennsylvania, which is in Bucks County, just 20-30 minutes north of Philly, right up 95. So really easy to get to there. And then we also have some satellite locations. We've got a little tap room in New Hope, PA, inside the Ferry Market. And then we also have one out in Dublin, PA, inside like a indoor food marketplace called The Station. So you can get our beers at those 3 locations, straight from the tap. And then we are distributed all throughout Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland. So we're on the shelf and hopefully on tap at your favorite bar throughout that whole region.
Hard not to find you. Where do the laws fall with shipping brew? Are you guys able to do that in PA?
We are not able to ship directly to consumers. No. So we go
crazy.
We go through the 3-tier system, through the distributors, and they get it to the accounts. It's starting to, different licenses can let you do different things. So that's definitely starting to open up.
When I was running the vineyard, it went state by state. Like certain states you could, certain states you couldn't, and there was a bottle limit, and it was a whole thing.
It's a pain. They make it real difficult. But yeah, so we're out there. You can definitely find our beer, and then if you want to keep an eye on what we've got going on, the Neshaminy Creek Brewing Company on Facebook. We're on Instagram, Twitter. We like to keep everyone up to date on the new beers, new events going on. We'll obviously be sharing stuff about the Mahoning event on there. And then the other big thing for us coming up in June is our big anniversary party, which we just announced the other day. So
10 years, baby.
Yeah, it's full day, free, all ages event on June 11th. We've got live music and, food trucks, different things.
All ages?
Yeah, man. Bring the kids.
Are you bringing your munchkin?
Oh, yeah. The family will be there.
Oh, come on. I'm bringing Virgie all day.
Mark calendar. Kevin, I don't know if you want to run, if we have a second to run through the bands that we've got lined up.
Sure. We got a really cool lineup. We've got Screaming Females. We've got Iron Chic, Wild Pink, Big Nothing, and my own band, Graduation Speech, will be providing music for the day. It's a killer lineup, and the fact that it's all free is pretty insane. So
gold.
Definitely come out for that.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see some of the
Iron Chic up on the stage. Come on, baby.
Right? It's going to be a good day.
Don't be a jabroni. Make your way on out. It's going to be a party for sure. Well, like I said, guys, can't thank you enough for the amazing support of the Mahoning. You guys certainly have done an amazing job spreading the word and love of the Mahoning, and this partnership means the world to us. And again, I think will be a true game changer for our branding and where we can go with the Mahoning in the future. So thank you guys for giving us all that you've given us.
That's what we're hoping for. And if anyone tries to build another solar farm, just let us know, because now I have the passwords for all our social media accounts. So
Yeah,
I can get the Creek crew on them.
Let's take them down. Yeah. Love it. And yeah, if you guys are hearing this, then you're getting the scoop. We're going to have it out there like crazy, but mark your calendars. May 21st, come out and enjoy some Mad Max Under the Stars and get your chance to get this brew. I have a feeling it is going to be a highly coveted item of the summer for sure. Love you guys. Thank you so much. And I'll see you at the brewery for sure.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
All right. On that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field. And most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night and God bless you.